Welcome to the Creator Spotlight, the interview portion of the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Steven Jensen, as always, joined by Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today is the Limitless World Champion, World Class, Channing Thomas.
That sounds great. Can you say that again?
The Limitless World Champion, World Class, Channing Thomas. Now, I don't.
Thank you.
I'm no Sydney Bacabella, but I'll still give you a decent intro.
It warms my heart every time someone says it.
Well, Channing, well deserved. Welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
I am doing very well, guys. How are you all?
Doing great.
Doing well.
Good evening over here in Atlanta. Where are you located out of, Channing?
Boston.
Yeah.
Let's get right into the Jensen mentioned off the top, the Limitless World title. Big night at Vacation Land for the Vacation Land Cup. You competed in the tournament, defeated Ichiban in the first round, won the 4-way against Alec Price, Becca, Desmond Cole, and then immediately going into the match against Rip Bison to take the title. Recap that night and everything that went into, just winning the tournament and winning the title.
I like the ending the best, so we'll save the best for last. So it started off wrestling Ichiban in the first round. Now, Ichiban's no slouch. He's a K1 champion, a Wrestling Open champion, and he goes up and down the East Coast, just like a lot of the competitors in the Vacation Land Cup do. So he's no slouch, but I took him on in the first round, beat him pretty handedly, hit him with my deal the pile driver. But man, he is one hell of a talent. Ichiban, he's definitely not a slouch, and I loved beating him. And then we moved to the Fatal 4-Way. Another Becca, Basic Becca. I call her Basic Becca, but international pop star Becca. Big Boofa, Desmond Cole, another guy. He's kind of been coming up the ranks recently, I feel. But I feel like he kind of made his name in Limitless almost. And then, of course, the IWTV World Champion, the Northeast Beast, the Prize City OG, Alec Price. Fun little fact about that match. Myself, Alec Price, and Becca all started training at the same school. So it's kind of like a homecoming for us all, But that might be one of my favorite matches I've ever had because just like the people involved in it, and the outcome and just how exciting and entertaining it was. That was a great fun match. I advise people to watch it, but the entree or maybe even the dessert actually, because this wasn't advertised, but Rip Bison's going to Japan. He might already be in Japan right now as we speak. I think he was in Alaska yesterday. So Rip Bison was going to Japan and he won the Limitless Wrestling World Championship, Sweet Lucille. And he wants to be a fighting champion. He wants to defend it around the world. Well, he's going to have to defend it in the house that Channing Thomas built, Limitless Wrestling. I wasn't going to let him walk away from a fight. And, he's kind of dumb. He's a little silly, a little stupid. He fell right into our trap. And that's why Channing Thomas is now your Limitless Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Sweet Lucille.
Yeah, well, it was a great night. What's it feel like? Obviously you're very proud to be the Limitless Champion. You soaked in the intro when we announced it just a moment ago. There's a prestigious list of champions for that title. Sure. When you look through, the first champion being MJF, you see where he's at nowadays. Anthony Green,
World Heavyweight Champion,
of course,
90,000 people.
Absolutely, yeah. Christian Casanova on that list, who people may know as Carmelo Hayes, doing very well for himself.
Yeah.
Dana Garcia, the Alec Price, the current IWTV champion, as you mentioned, big title change, of course, with Beef losing to Rip Bison, which was unexpected, and you becoming the champion afterwards. So, well, what's it like being on this list? And that's just that's how you mention everybody. Just to be like in that kind of company with so many, great names that have done so much, that are former champions.
For sure. You even mentioned Anthony Green, who's doing a stint in Noah, his third stint in Noah currently, and Ace Romero, former Impact superstar, which is awesome too. So really a who's who all across the industry. You got guys in Japan, going to Japan. You got guys that are prominent on the indies. You got guys in WWE. You got your guys in AEW. So just the prestige, the amount of superstars, the amount of class that has held that championship. It's truly remarkable, and it's kind of it's awe-inspiring when I look at it. Just to be in the same mentioned in the same breath of those guys. It's truly an honor.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of a perfect segue. Speaking of, the prestige and being prestigious, we had I'm actually going to take one of Jeremy's bits from him right now. I actually had a write-in. Somebody wrote in a question for you on today's show.
Really?
It was a Jay Alba. And
okay, I love John.
And he said something. He wanted me to ask, what's it like to have Jon Alba as the best manager in the world?
I mean, the question was from Jay Alba, or is that no? That's a little too on the nose. Or is it John A? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Fair.
I gotta hand it to John. He saw something in me. He saw something in Mac Daniels. He saw something in BRG, and he kind of like brought us into the fold at Limitless, and I think that got people to care about all three of us. First as a group, and then as individuals, as we progressed in our career. So I really do have to give a lot of credit to Jon Alba. But best manager in the world, I don't know if I can say that at this point, when I'm currently aligned with Cindy Bacabella, who handles a lot of my financials. So
yeah, that was a big moment in Limitless when you and John had your big falling out there. And I mean, that was unexpected when that happened. And speaking of Anthony Green, that was the match with Anthony Green we were talking about.
Yes. I love that match too. I thought like that was almost like a coming out party for me against Anthony Green, with John in my corner. The stakes of that match, the stipulation was that John wasn't able to make a few shows with us. So I said, John, you're either with me or you're against me. You're in my corner or you're not. And I got to admit, he did show up that day, but Channing Thomas had brighter pastures.
Okay, we can't praise Jon Alba anymore. The real question when it comes to Jon Alba, how punchable is that man's face?
Oh my God. You just want to like jab, right hand, everything.
All day.
All day. 1, 2, 3.
Just probably one of the most punchable faces out there.
If he was like if he wanted to like commit full time to being a wrestling villain, he would be the perfect wrestling villain, because you just want to beat him up.
His hair's so perfect too.
The way crazy, isn't it?
It does have nice hair.
It doesn't move.
I've kissed his hair before.
Really?
Yes, I've actually kissed it. Yeah.
Just we were on that, or
we were doing karaoke, and it was the first time I met Alba, and look, he's got beautiful hair. I gotta admit that. So I just gave it a nice little kiss.
What were you singing? Is the real question.
I sing Taylor Swift. I sing Shake It Off, but
Shake It Off's a fun song to sing at karaoke, I guess.
Oh yeah, see, I mean, look, I'm a Taylor Swift fan. Like, it doesn't have to be Shake It Off, but that's my karaoke go-to. We had a big group. Alba got up there and sang Friends in Low Places with myself, Connor Casey, Alba, and Sean Ross Sapp. And then Alba also sang, I'm sure it was a Bruce Springsteen song. He'll yell at me for not knowing any of this stuff.
Yeah, he just saw Bruce the other week. He saw him back-to-back nights, I think.
That's all he does. He stalks Bruce. That's his life now, it seems like.
Yeah.
Channing, let us know how you got started in wrestling. You mentioned you came up a little bit with like Alec Price, but how did you kind of get started in the world of professional wrestling?
So there is a very reputable school named the Chaotic Training Center that I did not go to. They had an open house, and I just missed it by like a week. So I went to Wikipedia and I looked up all the wrestling promotions in my area, and I just sent a bunch of messages until one of them responded. And this place called UFO Wrestling, a guy named Pat Dillon responded. He said, come to the Belltime Club, which is a school run by Bo Douglas, and at the time this masked man named Toto Loco. And they kind of train you in like this old school type of way. You get made tough, you learn respect, you learn etiquette. And honestly, I truly believe why I've been able to kind of survive in this business for so long is because of that etiquette and that hardening up that they did to us. And I am so grateful and appreciative of everything that those two people have done for me. It's just made me into a different type of person when I first started. I was a boy, and now I'm a little bit more of a man. So I've seen a lot, you know. I've been wrestling for like 7 years at this point, so it wears on you for sure. But you got to tough it out. It's one of the most important things. This isn't ballet. That's what they say, right?
Who are some of like your favorite wrestlers, like as a fan before you got into wrestling? Because I see like certain like influences in your style and kind of your presentation and stuff, and I'm curious as to kind of like where that all kind of comes from.
For sure. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers is Mr. Perfect. Like he is the perfect wrestler, the perfect man, the perfect promo. Just everything he does kind of has a little swagger to him, and I really love that. When I was growing up, obviously, you got John Cena, Randy Orton, and Rey Mysterio, kind of your big three for the people that grew up during that Ruthless Aggression era. And then when I was like watching a lot of not indie wrestling, because I don't really consider it indie wrestling, but I was watching a lot of Ring of Honor when I first started training, and like one of my favorite guys to watch was Jay Lethal, because I watched him in TNA back in the day, and he was awesome in Ring of Honor, like feuding with the Bullet Club. So
tell us about your AEW experiences. You've done a couple shots with Dark Elevation. What were those experiences like?
I love doing stuff like that. I always love to see how almost like how the pudding is made, how the food's made, you know what I'm saying? The inner workings of the machine behind the scenes. It's always so awe-inspiring to just see how many hands and how many different people that, you know, you see your TV stars, and you know those guys are there, but like then you forget like how many people are just running around making sure the ship goes, and it's always so awe-inspiring to watch. So yeah, I did a couple of trios matches for AEW Dark. I wrestled Matt Hardy and Private Party, who I've wrestled a few times on some independent shots at Northeast Wrestling. So that was kind of cool to kind of bring that match from Northeast to AEW. Wrestled the Factory, QT Marshall, and I got to wrestle Roosh in the Blade in the Butcher and the Blade, excuse me. So I've got to kind of, you know, I've gotten thrown into the fire, and I've got to wrestle a lot of different people there. So it's always cool. It's always cool wrestling people who grew up watching too, wrestling Matt Hardy, you know.
Did you get?
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was saying, did you get any advice from
That was
anybody? We've had people on the show who've said like Matt will give them. Matt Hardy is very good about like giving advice. So because you were in the ring with him, did you get any advice from him or anybody else?
Not that I can't remember. If I got anything that day. I did get some advice just from Matt Hardy when we were working on the independence, and it was just kind of, you know, stick to like your basic fundamental stuff, because that's the most important stuff. Have that framework set and build on that framework. And I've always kind of tried to stay true to that even before he said that. But just hearing it from a guy that's made so much money in our industry, just harp on that, really puts it home how important it is.
Someone we mentioned earlier was Alec Price, and you had a match with him recently. I know you've had quite a few matches with him, but I thought it was really cool that they recently did you as the Limitless champion taking on him as the IWTV champion at the live 1-year anniversary show. And that one ended in DQ. I'm not gonna lie, you weren't in the best position there. Like it looked like he was in a pretty good spot, but he did not officially beat you that night. I mean, it was by DQ. You know, I feel like there's room there for more. And I wanted to know your experience, I guess, for that match against Alec. And then I also wanted you to elaborate on your relationship with Sydney Bacabella, because I feel like y'all are a really good pair together.
Yes. We'll start with Alec, because me and Alec have like a very storied history. So like I said, I started with Alec Price. He probably started a couple of months after I did, as far as like training goes. So me and him have been wrestling legit probably against each other for 6 or 7 years. At this point, we did an hour-long Ironman match last year at Wrestling Open. Earlier this year at Wrestling Open. Oh my God, 2023. He actually busted me open like 4 years ago before the pandemic started, and I had to get stitches in 2 places on my face. So every time I get in the ring with Alec, it's a chance to kind of just, just give him a little bit, I look at him like almost like a little brother, and I just want to like give him a noogie, smack him around a little bit, and he just wants to give it back to me. So Alec recently won the IWTV championship at American Rana, and then 2 weeks later I won the Limitless Wrestling championship. So it just kind of came together. He wanted what I had, I wanted what he had. He's had what I have. I haven't had what he's had, so my greed kind of got the best of me that day, I'd say, because I probably could have had an IWTV title match without having to put on the Limitless Wrestling belt. But sometimes, like, you got Prize City OG versus World Class, and it's just the stakes, the feeling, the emotion of it is so important, and you just know you're kind of making history in that moment when you're doing that. So I think in the back of my head, I was just really focused on making history that day.
Understood.
Yeah. And as far as Sidney Bacabella goes, this man has seen so much in his storied career. He has all the oldest, and some of them are pretty dirty. He knows all the tricks of the trade, all the shortcuts. He knows when something's going to work, when something isn't going to work, when something could perhaps work in given scenarios. The guy is literally an encyclopedia of professional wrestling knowledge, and he's an excellent chef as well. Sometimes I go over his house, and he makes me steak while we watch old tape back together. He has really done wonders for my career the last 2 years, and we are going to continue to expand on that in 2024 and beyond. So just that relationship has been such a strong relationship for me the last couple of years. He saw me at an independent show about 5 years ago and gave me a task that he knew was kind of dumb, but he wanted to see if I would follow through with it and do it because he told me, and I did. And that's kind of when he knew that he had to kind of latch on,
Yeah. So the follow-up, of course, is going to be, what was the task?
The task was to use a different vocabulary word, a new vocabulary word in every promo that you can do. It was an old Nick Bockwinkel trick.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Yeah, Nick Bockwinkel used to study the dictionary for words, kind of like Eminem would do for rapping. He'd study the dictionary and try and incorporate a new word into each and every one of his promos. And that's why he kind of sounded so intelligent.
Wait, do you remember any of the words? It's okay. So
I don't remember any of the words. No.
Okay. So did you have to, okay, well, my other question off of that is, did you have to find it, or did he give you the word of like, you got to incorporate this word?
I would go out and I would find them, and then I'd send him in the promo and then try and have him guess what the word is.
Oh, that's a nice little game there. I like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
Oh, sorry. I have one more follow-up based on kind of one other thing you mentioned, because a lot of the indie world is very linked. You're mentioning like Alec Price has something that you want. You have something Alec Price wants. You wrestle him in this company, that company, all over. You mentioned you wrestled Ichiban recently. Ichiban is currently the champion of Wrestling Open. You recently became the number one contender for that championship by beating Barbie Orlando. Yep. So how does it feel to be the number one contender for that title? And do you expect to become the Wrestling Open champion soon?
I think that if I was to win the Wrestling Open Championship next Thursday, 9/21, it would be the best thing that has ever happened to Wrestling Open ever. I guarantee that world-class Shane Thomas becoming the face of Wrestling Open, dictating the culture that Wrestling Open has, would be an absolute benefit for Wrestling Open. Ichiban, like I said, man, he's a focused competitor. His skills are very sharp, but if you can get him to break focus, he kind of starts to make mistakes into his game. So I look forward to testing his focus, is I guess just how I can put it.
Oh, I was going to ask, kind of to piggyback off of that, One, do you think Ichiban should just hand you the title? You've already beat him. I don't know why we're even like. I mean, the match will be good, right?
For
Like,
sure.
but
For sure.
just hand it over type of deal at this point. And two, just the overall experience at Wrestling Open, because you've been part of the part of that group really since the beginning. So really the growth of Wrestling Open.
Yep, I've been there since. Not they did like a soft open show on Restival 2 years ago, and I was not there for that, but I was there the following week when it was the first official Wrestling Open show, not the soft opening, the first official Thursday show. So I've been there since almost the very beginning, and it's every Thursday, man. It can sometimes be a little bit stressful, you know. It can put stress on your body. It can put stress on your mind. There's so many hungry competitors out there that are just coming for your head. You really got to keep your skills sharp. You got to keep your skills sharp. You got to keep your mind clear, because at any moment, someone that we have never heard of could be the next sensation, and they could come through Wrestling Open. So, I always want to foster growth in the wrestling community, but not at my own expense. So, and as far as Ichiban handing over the championship, I think that would be a good idea for Ichiban. I'm not sure how it would look for me accepting a championship that's being relinquished or forfeited. But I think in mind of Ichiban's health, I think that would probably be the best course of action for him.
I respect your point of view that it's like, you know what, I'm gonna beat you and then just take this from you.
Yeah.
But it is a good idea for him to just do it. He's already lost to you. Like he doesn't need to put himself through that again.
Don't get hurt, man. I think he has a bad shoulder right now too. So like, no, that's not a good thing. It's not.
And I mean, you just mentioned Wrestling Open being every Thursday. He needs to heal up off of this stuff. You got to keep making this show, and you're not going to do that if you keep getting in the ring with Channing Thomas.
For sure, you get it.
Yeah.
I know these things. See, John Alba taught me well on how to promote and things like that.
There you go. Another company that you've done some work with that we've actually interviewed a lot of their regular talent. A lot of them recently, actually.
Can I guess it? I guess it? Is it New South Pro Wrestling?
It is New South Pro Wrestling. It is.
I love New South.
Yeah, well, that's great. So they already answered part of my question. I was going to ask you what it's like being a part of New South. I know you're part of the Haas tournament, which is one of the most prestigious tournaments in my opinion. And you wrestled friend of the show, Vinny Pacifico, and Brogan Finley, who I watched Brogan wrestle probably his like third match like ever in front of people,
Really?
Because he's like a Chattanooga guy, and I'm in the Southeast, so people tap me in on him super early. And so what's it been like working for New South? I know you said it's been awesome.
I really enjoy working for New South. It's a pretty long drive, 19 hours in the car, but I think that's kind of like what the part of the fun is, because I like the traveling aspect of it. But everybody in the locker room, I don't know if they're afraid of me or if they respect me, but they seem to treat me pretty well. So I like to hear that. And, the fans, they love buying my merch. If you go down to a New South show, they're decked out, dripped up in Channing Thomas shirts and stickers and 8x10s. So I love working New South. And like you said, honestly, the Haas tournament this year was one of my biggest accomplishments, because I knew that it's one of like the most prestigious, one of the most decorated tournaments in all of independent wrestling right now. They always have a crazy lineup. This year they had Martin Stone and Davey Richards and Stallion Rogers, and myself, Alec too. But yeah, I really enjoy working for New South.
I know if you had a follow-up New South question, Jensen, I expected a lot of New South talk.
We hear stories about like the people that work there all the time, like Dump Sanders, and Brandon Williams and those guys. I know you said it's been great working there. Is there anyone that you'd like to wrestle there anytime soon, like coming up?
Absolutely. I was supposed to wrestle Dylan McQueen one of the last times I went down there, but unfortunately, He had a family emergency and was not able to make the show. Personally, I think he was kind of scared of me. But I digress. I would love to get in the ring with Dylan McQueen. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I think we would match up really well against each other. Plus, he's kind of like a bigger guy. I'm kind of a bigger guy, and I kind of like that heavyweight style wrestling, and I think we could have a great heavyweight style matchup. Yeah, I mean, Cabana Man Dan has been there he's been a wrestler in that area for years, so I'd love to kind of just knock him down a step. Brandon Williams, I actually got me booked for New South, so I really don't want to wrestle him because I like him, but he's a fantastic technical wrestler, and I think we could have a fun matchup there too. So yeah, there's a couple guys I really want, but Dylan McQueen is for sure definitely one of the guys that I'd love to mix it up with.
I don't know if you saw, but Dylan briefly won that New South Championship in that steel cage match, and then lost it right away.
Building.
Oh, you were. That's right. Right.
Braden too. I really don't know what he was doing. He went through a hellacious ladder match with me in it, so I don't know why he did it, but I guess he gave the briefcase to his best friend to right the wrong, I guess.
Yes, that's right. You were there. Now, I was going to ask you if you had your eyes on Hunter Drake, of course, being the current champion, and that title belt itself is like, I feel like any pro wrestler would just want to hold that gigantic championship.
For sure. It is. I mean, it's called the Humongold for a reason, right? It is massive. So, I mean, anything that big and that gold, I kind of want, right? And when I first got to New South, I wrestled Hunter Drake and he beat me. So I kind of need to right the wrong, I guess.
You mentioned Jay Lethal earlier as an influence with the ROH style, and you wrestled Jay Lethal at, I believe, NEW. How'd that match go? And then once again, did you talk to Jay, get any advice from Jay?
That match was very fun. It was a trios match with myself and the Brick City Boys versus Jay Lethal and Waves and Curls. So, Brick City Boys, they are my boys. And then though me and Waves and Curls kind of end up on opposite sides of the ring sometimes, those guys are my brothers and I respect them a lot. So that was a really, really fun match. It was just kind of one of those matches that you look back and you're like, wow, that was just something that was special, and then of course, just working with Jay, he's just so fluid in the ring, and he really makes you want to step your game up, and just the way he thinks about wrestling is on a different level. Earlier in that day, he actually had a seminar, and it was only supposed to go for 3 hours, but it ended up going for 5. And he's just he's another wealth of knowledge. So yeah, it was a pleasure working with that match.
Well, getting to have a dream match like that, what other kind of, you mentioned some dream matches for New South on maybe a bigger scale, maybe wrestlers you are a fan of or grew up watching that are still around and stuff like that. What are some other dream matches that you have that you think might actually be possible?
Dream matches that I might actually think are possible. I think there is absolutely no reason why I couldn't beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship right now.
I love that call out. I
think, and that's not really even me looking up to him. I just know I can beat him. And I could probably chop harder than him too. So I'd say Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther is something. He'll hold on to that thing forever too. So it's just waiting for me to get there.
Oh man, I love that. I was going to ask you goals in wrestling. It sounds like Intercontinental Championship's way up there on the list.
For sure. Wrestling for the WWE I think would be awesome because it's something I grew up watching. So I think I'll always have a special place in my heart for it. Wrestling in Japan, not just Japan, but I think wrestling internationally and traveling all across the world, and I think that's always cool. I think it's always cool when I get to wrestle in a different area of the United States too, scaling it back down. Yeah, so I think those would be the top priority goals are traveling across the world, getting a chance to do some stints in some cool places, and eventually, hopefully, ending up in either the WWE or AEW.
Big goals to have. Oh, just show up on Raw when they are in town. Just challenge Gunther. It can.
I think that's a foolproof plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
They do celebrations and stuff all the time now, right? Where they just go out to the ring and talk, or like, you just jump out there and crash one of those, get yourself a title shot.
Why not? Honestly.
Look, AEW's got like 5 open challenges. So honestly, if you want to appear on that show, you can. It seems like you just walk in the door and get a title shot against Moxley or FTR, get a partner.
Let's say get a partner, Ring of Honor tag titles right there for the taking.
They're all there.
I would only go for a tag team championship belt if I could clone myself, because I can only trust myself to do something.
That's fair.
I don't know if we've invented that technology, unfortunately. We should get on that. We should really get on that.
There's a sheep or something that was cloned one time. I remember reading about that in middle school.
I remember that too.
What do you enjoy kind of outside of pro wrestling, Channing?
Oh, I enjoy weightlifting, just exercising in general. I really enjoy. I like going for walks in the woods. Or just going for walks in general, reading. I'm kind of a simple person, I enjoy the finer things in life, a good cigar, some nice aged whiskey every once in a while. But for the most part, I kind of like to keep to myself a lot.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading How to Influence Daily and Win People Over. So it's kind of like a human psychology book. Basically, at the end of the day, the main takeaways are like, be nice and admit when you're wrong, and then try and clear up communication as much as possible.
So you take your lessons and then just do the exact opposite when it comes to professional wrestling. You're like, okay, I want people to hate me, so don't do these things. Do the opposite of these things.
No, because you need to get what you want. And to get what you want, you need to kind of like, lie, play the game a little bit. So you can't be an asshole all the time, but
that's fair.
You can be all the time if you're pretending to be kind at some point.
That's very true. I like that. Another question I had for you. I like to pick wrestlers' brains a little bit on the decision making behind the finishers they choose. And simple finisher, pile driver, simple but effective. I like that a lot. When we interviewed Adam Priest, I told him the same thing. DDT, love it. Simple DDT. They stay down 1, 2, 3. I
love Adam Priest. I think he's awesome. That's another guy I'd love to wrestle. Adam Priest.
Yeah, he's great. Pile driver, man, and I love the way you hit that thing. It looks great. What was your decision making process on the pile driver being your move?
Effectiveness. I knew that when I would do a pile driver, some people do a pile driver and they get it for a 2 count and then they're up and moving around. Whenever I hit a pile driver, I know it's effective because the person usually gets taken out on a stretcher afterwards, and sent to local medical facilities. So effectiveness, really. When you're practicing the moves, I kind of heard a few people with it the first couple times go, and I said, wow, this is the move for me.
Okay. Can you name some of the people you train with, or maybe someone who helped teach you the pile driver?
I studied a lot of Paul Orndorff tapes, a lot of Terry Funk tapes, and they use the pile driver. As far as people I've practiced it on, they don't really wrestle anymore. So,
yeah, I expected an answer like that. Yeah,
it must be hard to get training partners to practice this. No one wants to take it if you're gonna hurt them with it in training.
You just tell them you're gonna pay them a pretty decent amount; they'll be fine. And you say, "Don't take any cheap shots with me," and then you hit them with a pile driver.
It seems to be working. You're rolling in the career.
I've won a lot of matches with that pile driver.
Absolutely.
Yeah, training wise, you're hitting it in the match. That's when it matters. It clearly works in the match. In training, you don't need to practice it. It's already, as you said, it's already effective.
But when I first started practicing it to make sure I had the right technique, the right hold of the person, we lost a lot of friends, a lot of valued friends.
Who do you think has the best pile driver in history? You mentioned Orndorff and Terry Funk have good ones. Are those at the top of the list, or is there anybody else that has a really effective pile
For
driver?
like all time, probably those two. I always loved CM Punk's pile driver on John Cena. I always thought that was a great pile driver. Tommy Dreamer had a good pile driver too, if I remember correctly. Trying to think who else have used the pile driver.
You think of the like cactus pile driver where he pulls
that's a good
back
one.
and spikes him like that.
Oh, Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn has a fantastic cradle pile driver. I love that too.
You kind of did that to win the Limitless title. You had the cradle, and it kind of wound up almost more like a bomb than a driver, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that. Were you going for the cradle pile driver, or did it just kind of work out that way?
I'm just use the most effective move at any given point.
Okay, I got you.
It won the match.
Hey, it looked great.
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
Whatever gets the victory. That's what we're here for. Wins. None of this other stuff. Winner's purse is what matters. What was the match? You kind of, that's right. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but I want to get a full answer on it. You mentioned when you said Anthony Green, the guy you got a lot of respect for. What was the match where you had and you were like, oh, I'm good at this. Like things just really kind of clicked for you. And it's like, I know I'm good at this. I know wrestlers never stop learning, but things just like really clicked and you just kind of realized like, I can do this.
Yeah. A lot of people, their first matches. I'm sorry, I just had to put my phone in the charger.
Hey, you're good.
Okay.
A lot of people, their first matches, most of them suck. Mine was amazing. I was the best wrestler in the match. So I would go with that match. My very first match. I was like, wow, I'm the best at this. I'm probably going to be WWE champion one day. I should continue this. So I would say that. But I would also probably say I've had a few matches earlier in my career with this man named Nico Silva. He's kind of like he's a veteran around New England. We're kind of starting up. He's a little bit more experienced than me, but a few years ago when we were wrestling, we were both kind of green, and we just like the first time he gave me like a shoulder tackle. I just remember being like, wow, like this is something completely different. This is something that like I've never experienced before. And this is something I need to start doing. So that match, any of those matches with Nico, I really attribute to kind of stepping on my game. I had a match with Mike Bennett in Northeast Wrestling a few years ago. That was another match where I was like I'm feeling it. I'm starting to get it. I'm picking it up. I'm wrestling people who have been on TV, who've been in places that I've been, and just kind of like being able to hang around with them has always been like a good sign. You mentioned the Anthony Green match. That was a match that was really important to me because I wrestled AG a few times and I felt like that was like, that was our best at that moment. So I felt like from the first time I wrestled him to that time, there was just so much improvement that was, that really kind of like kept me going. I'm trying to think, man. Mike Bennett, Anthony Green, Nico. I'm sure there'll be more to come with me, more that come. I wrestled Jon Moxley, and when I got hit by him, that was like another thing where I was like, wow, this is like a different level of this type of thing. So, yeah, we'll go with those.
What's it like to have a guy like Jon Moxley out there who's so well known in like the mainstream wrestling scene with all his years in the WWE, what he does in AEW, but to also just constantly be giving back to the independent scene, doing indie spots. He was the GCW champion for a while. Like, what's it like having a guy like that like never got really too big for this, and he's a guy who doesn't need to do this for money. He clearly does it because he loves it.
So when I wrestled him, I believe it was like he just came out of alcohol rehab like the week before. So his first match was Ethan Page on Rampage, like a live Rampage. And then the next night he wrestled me. And then the following night he wrestled Homicide for GCW. So you just look at a guy like that, a guy that's given his body, his life to the independence and that's really where he kind of he found himself, was on the independents, and then he goes and he works at WWE, and that's awesome, fantastic. But he's a guy that kind of understands how important the independents are to wrestling. You even look back this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, where he was showing up at an AAW independent wrestling match in Chicago in a barbed wire massacre. He's just one of those guys that just loves wrestling, and you can tell he loves wrestling. So I think the industry needs more leaders like that.
I mean, I know it was a short match against Moxley. You almost had him, though. I distinctly remember that. But did any conversations with Moxley beforehand of, like you mentioned, he was just coming off of the rehab stint. He was kind of getting his feet back into things, did 3 straight matches because he's Jon Moxley. But any conversations with him about things?
Honestly, no. He's an extremely private guy. We talked twice. He's very to the point, straight. So not a lot of FaceTime with him, but I kind of, as like a fellow person who's kind of just wants to be alone sometimes, I respect that a lot. And honestly, he wasn't advertised for the show we were on. He was a big surprise. So him just being there is incredible and speaks volumes to how he feels about independent wrestling as a whole. So
last one from me, what we ask everybody is, what is the coolest thing in your room?
The coolest thing in my room right now. All right. I hope I don't lose you guys.
Gotcha.
The Vacationland Cup.
Nice. Can't beat that.
That's the coolest thing in my room. And it's right next to, these are like Indian clubs that the Iron Sheik would kind of like wave around. And I own a pair. It's good for shoulder rehab. So those are the 2 cool things in my room. Oh, and I have a Ramp Stereo action figure I got as a gift this year. So
nice. Oh, I have that one also. I have that figure up on my shelf. That's a great one.
My little brother got it for me as a Christmas present this year. So
very nice.
3 coolest things in my room.
Love it. I have one last question, and this may become a theme on the show, or it may get squashed pretty much immediately. I asked it last week. It's very topical, and I feel like it's actually a legitimate question to ask to get an opinion on. What's your opinion on using real glass in wrestling?
No comment.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. We'll probably squash that question. We asked Dan last week because we were talking about a death match that he was involved in, and it was very topical at the time. Yeah. But I'm legitimately curious now because it seems such a polarizing situation that I'm just like all over broken glass. I've seen broken glass. I've seen real glass. I've seen fake glass. I've seen it all in wrestling. But it's crazy that was so polarizing. But anyways, no comment. That's probably a good answer.
No comment is my answer.
I like
Jensen,
that.
do you want to bring back the old who would win a street fight?
No, that's too stupid of a question.
Wait, where are we going with this?
No, this is a rabbit hole. Okay, all right. We'll ask you this also, since I gave you. I asked you the stupid glass question. Okay,
so we used to ask everybody who would win a street fight between Eddie Kingston and Cody Rhodes.
An actual street fight, not in wrestling.
An actual street fight?
Yeah.
No rules.
Eddie Kingston's a dog, but Cody Rhodes is a legitimate shoot amateur wrestler, and sometimes those street fights it's just swing and people go to the ground like that. And honestly, I think if that happened, Cody would probably, I don't know if he'd beat him up, but he might tie him up. Eddie
stay on top of him.
Might kill him though.
Yeah, okay. So that's actually the exact answer that I always give is I think that Cody would get a double leg and he'd probably stay on top of him. But Eddie, if it came down to it, Eddie's ready to kill someone. So so that it's a very strange question. And there's reasons why that question became a thing, but we retired it a while ago, but we unretired it for you, Shannon.
Okay. All right. I got a question for you guys now. How about this? Okay. Brock Lesnar is on a playground and he is fighting waves of 10-year-olds.
Okay.
Oh,
Like
those
10
10-year-olds are screwed.
Like 10-year-olds.
Okay.
But they come in waves, so it's like
How many waves are we talking?
It's like a horde. It's like horde level or zombies. And like Call of Duty. Okay.
It's like zombies. Like how many
Yeah.
waves can we get through before Brock gets tired?
Okay.
10-year-old.
All right. So
There's a lot.
I think he could get through a lot. I have kids. They don't tire. They do not tire at all. That's the thing.
They really don't.
But Brock hits a lot harder than I do. Much bigger person than I am. I think he could get through a lot of weight. He would just toss, and like playground, you get like a jungle gym. He just gets to toss them into those bars and stuff. Like,
do you like that? I like the addition of like he's on the playground.
Yeah, because he can toss them into like a lot of stuff.
You get a very Donkey Kong like vision of him on the top throwing like barrels at the kids from the top. Yeah.
Literally exactly what I picture when I think about that.
Dude, I think he would legitimately get through. It would be thousands of children until he got so tired he fell asleep. I don't think it would ever end.
Like, I don't think it ends. I think he just kind of done.
Yeah, that's a good question though, Shannon. See, you feel great on this show. We love questions like that.
I've been thinking about that question for years.
I like it.
I asked DJ Hyde that question at a CZW Dojo Wars taping one time.
What was his answer?
I can't remember it. I remember being kind of corny, but that's
I like it. We're gonna steal this. We'll make sure you give you credit.
You can have it, please.
It's very
more
good.
People need to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll retire the real glass question and start asking about the zombies.
So I don't think you need to retire it, but I do think like eventually people are kind of be like, "What are you talking about?" But I think this Brock Lesnar child mauling scenario
that never gets old.
It's timeless.
Yeah, that never gets old.
It's very true. Well, thanks for the addition to the show, Shannon. We very much appreciate the contribution.
Guys, thank you for having me. I actually had a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Let everybody know what you got coming up and where they can find you at.
Perfect. When's this going out?
On Thursday morning.
Yep. Thursday morning? Oh, perfect. This Saturday, you can catch me at Steel Stack SmackDown 2. I do not know if there are any tickets left. There might be some general admission. There's going to be like 1,000 people there. Wheeler Yuta is going to be there. There's a huge 5-on-5 tag main event that I'm a part of. Bacabella's Army versus Ultra Mantis's Mob. There you can catch me there. Sunday you can catch me at Live Pro Wrestling at the Vault in New Bedford, one of my favorite places to wrestle. We'll just rattle off September because I know September really well. Next week you can catch me in Stoughton at the Stoughton Super Slam on Saturday the 23rd, and on the 24th you can catch me at Beyond Wrestling at the beach in Westerly, Rhode Island. The beach shows are always fun if the weather's great, so I'm hoping the weather's great. Not so much if the weather's not great. And at the end of the month, it is the Limitless Wrestling anniversary show, and I will be there, and I will have some shenanigans planned. So go to that too.
There you go. Follow Channing on X, Twitter, Chan Thomas Pro. The link is down below. You can check out a schedule all right there and get your tickets, see how to watch all that fun stuff. Channing, thank you again for joining us. We
Guys,
really appreciate
it. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, thank you.
We had a great time.
We appreciate it. Yes. Guys, we'll be right back here on the